Last week, I talked a bit about words and how they can affect our lives, maybe just for a day, maybe for a week, but sometimes for a lifetime. And one of the keys to handling daily situations that are frustrating because they happen, I'm sure you can think of some, are the difference between our reaction to what's coming at us or responding thoughtfully, giving it some thought to what happens. And that's going to always be our best response is to simply respond thoughtfully when something happens. And emotions are a wonderful thing. And sometimes I want you to think about that they can be indicators rather than just the hot point that, let's just say, someone that you really care about, you care about what happens to them, like your children or your spouse. And they say something and they poke you right where sometimes they know it hurts. Sometimes people can be mean. Sometimes it's a little odd, but sometimes it seems like, anyway, that they do it on purpose because they know how to get to us. And of course, I'm going to say the same thing that I am always going to say, that thankfully I believe I have learned, but I have had to learn it over and over and over again to try to just laugh rather than more of the negative force that's in this world to overwhelm us because of the emotion that gets to us. And we feel this. People have the expression, I felt the flu go up on my back, like you're, a cat, any cat owners, yeah, if you have a cat, we all know something's not right. Something's outside the window or whatever when the fur goes up on our cat. They're trying to make themselves look larger than they really are to try to deter what is outside that window. Other creatures do similar things, right? The spines go up or whatever it is. So when you feel that happen, if maybe you're a hairy person, oh my goodness, like some of my favorite actors. Robin Williams, I remember, I believe he was in a movie where he was in an insane asylum, and he walks into this room and he takes his shirt off, and the fella says, "You're pretty hairy." It just looks like, I guess so. Keeps me warm or something like that. And if you're a person like that, you might feel something special going on, like popping out of your shirt when somebody pokes you where they shouldn't be poking, or you've worked your guts out all day, and your spouse comes to you and says something, and it doesn't quite land the way that it's intended. It could even happen then. Even from the people that we know love us. We know that they care. But sometimes emotions can stomp out the life in a second in a relationship. And it's very unfortunate. So I believe I'm still working on it. I'm getting better. I'm not perfect. Maybe you're still working on it. And I suggest you do. Because life can just be so much more enjoyable on a daily basis when we just learn to, instead of reacting, dare you, or somebody does something and immediately the hand comes up, you feel like you just want to swat their head off. Oh my God. There's a fella that I grew up around. I'm just going to call him Mr. P. All right. And he and his wife both had such a joy about themselves. I remember when he would just come up to you and he would just say, "Hey, babe," and just pop you one and just kind of make like he was going to wrestle with you or something. And he was always just very playful. Love that man. He died way too soon. Some people teach us so much about just how they treat the people around them. Maybe you know somebody like that. Cherish those people that can you watch them handle a situation. I remember being at a barbecue once at their house. We were kids and something happened that was not awesome with three boys running around a house and stuff's bound to happen. There was also three boys in our family and a younger sister, of course, that never did anything wrong, by the way. So, and he just said he could have tore him a new one in front of the whole gathering there. There were probably, I don't know, at least 20 people out there, 10 couples and their kids running around. There might have been 30 or 40 of us with all the kids. And he could have lashed out at them and said, "You son of a," or something worse or whatever, and cracked them across the head. You know what he did? He just tackled them and tickled the heck out of them. He said, "Now, don't do that again, or I'm going to get you." And he says, "Really, don't leave that alone. You know better." And he let it go. And I tried to do that with my kids growing up, and sometimes I didn't. And I was always sorry because I try so hard to be a good dad. And my father wasn't perfect. He was very Irish. And sometimes I'm just putting it that way to be funny, but yeah, as in the Little Rascals, we learned the expression, he got a mean temperature. And that temperature got a little high sometimes, and you didn't want to mess with that. And that was a good thing that you knew that. But holy smokes, he let you know. But sometimes I wish he could be a little bit more like Mr. P and play with me and tackle me, and rather than just, yeah, we can all be better, right? We're all way too human sometimes. So don't get down on yourself. I'm sure you're a good person, just like I try to be. But try when that fur goes up that you stop and you realize the temperature is rising in here, but before it comes out, think, what is the best way to treat this person that I really want to do no harm, but I know they need to learn a lesson? What's the best way to handle that? Is it with anger? Sometimes some anger has to come out, especially if they've been warned like two or three or 10 times. Oh my goodness. People ask how the kids are doing. They keep me guessing. That's my candid response so often, but maybe you can relate. And maybe you're the kid causing the problems. But we all have a kid inside us, and we're all growing and learning. And I hope that if this message comes across, just in case it does, I want you to be the best. The next time it happens, you might not get it quite right, but each time it happens, just think about this. I want to get better. I want to be a better dad, a better mom, a better kid, a better daughter, a better son. What's the best way to react when something at work happens that stinks? Be the bigger person. Be the one people love to be around. Be the person that I, like the guy that I used to work for, admired. Things would happen, and I never saw this guy. His name is Mark. was like a duck. I would sit and talk to him sometimes. How is it that you never, with the stuff that goes on in some of these meetings, you never lose your cool? You know what his response was? How's that going to help? How is that going to make things better? He just took it all in. And then when they were all done unloading, he recognized their anger and he thoughtfully responded. So, just in case you come across something like that this week, think about that and choose to respond rather than react.